pray that everything we do in accordance with our will. Lord, we pray for our country and especially the ones that are sick and due to this COVID-19 and for other reasons. Lord, we pray that you restore them back to their best form of health. Lord, if it be thy will. We ask you to put your hand around our men and women that have served our country, especially the ones over on the foreign soil, that you will bring them back home safe and sound, Lord, if it be thy will. Lord, we ask you to forgive us of our sins. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Chief Etheridge, can you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and also wearing their mask and social distancing as much as we possibly can. We do have a lengthy agenda tonight. If anyone has any questions, we're going to give 3 minutes for that if that's what needs to happen. Okay. So roll call, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Coleman.
Present.
Alderman Dale.
Present.
Alderman Houston. Vice Mayor Dotson.
Here.
Alderman Langston.
Here.
Alderman Speck.
Present.
I'm present with Mr. Dishman. All right, need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Speck, second by Alderman Dale. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion passed. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Question, Mayor, are we doing this public hearing first before we get into the regular meeting?
I'm glad you brought that up, Ken. I will. Let me back up just a little bit. This public hearing is on ordinance 2027-1, and that is the public hearing on ordinance to repeal the existing sewer use ordinance and adopt wastewater. We had the first reading last month, and then had a public hearing. I've not received any phone calls, nor has Mr. Langford. So, is there anyone here that would like to speak on that ordinance? That would be an ordinance to repeal the existing sewer ordinance and adopt wastewater regulations. Anyone here? Okay, we'll close that down. Thank you, Vice Mayor Dodson. My oversight. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as is. Motion made by Vice Mayor Dodson, second by Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion passed. Under old business, item number 1, second reading on the ordinance 2027-1. And that's the one that, this is the ordinance where we had the first reading last month. Had a public hearing on it earlier, as we just did. And I've not received any phone calls. Wastewater supervisor met this morning. In fact, there was nothing brought up about it. So we entered up do a motion to accept the second reading. Motion made by Alderman Coleman. There's a second. Second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips, please.
Alderman Dale.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Langston.
Yes.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Item number 1, downtown revitalization. Mr. Ray Evans did not have anything. So we'll go to item number 2,
That is the Small Business Development Center, Miss Megan Smith and Mr. Tyler Asher. Come on up, folks. You'll come up to the podium. I think the information on your screen, and they're here to talk about this great opportunity that we will have.
Good evening, Mayor.
If you, I'm sorry, if you, what you got? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Aldermen, thank you for taking time to let us come and speak with what the Small Business Development Center can do for Overton County and the city of Livingston. As many of you know, the small businesses in the last few months have been hit very hard with the pandemic that we have faced. And so recently, the Upper Cumberland Development District has taken over the day-to-day operations for the Small Business Development Center. They were with Tennessee Tech for a long time, and we partnered with Tennessee Tech, and we have taken over the day-to-day operations. Our main goals are to help start new businesses, for them to start, grow, and achieve for a new business, and an existing business to innovate, retain, and expand. All of our services are free. All they would have to do is reach out to us. We will set up a consult appointment with them. We will link them to networks that we have. We will help them seek financing if they need to. We work very closely with the revolving loan fund that the Upper Cumberland Development District manages. And so this is just a great opportunity, free resources for any small business to come and get those resources during this pandemic. Right?
I just want to also mention that we are partnering as well with Tennessee Tech, as he mentioned, the Center for Rural Innovation at Tennessee Tech, WCTE, what's the other?
This one.
The Biz Foundry, I'm sorry. All three of us, or excuse me, all four of us come together as a major entity to kind of be a starting point for your businesses, and we're really a collective that can help you.
We offer, right now we're currently offering bi-weekly Zoom meetings for businesses they can jump on with. We're hosting subject matter experts, whether they need help with HR or people working remotely. We host those bi-weekly so they can find us on social media. They will have access to those calls. Also, we work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that new businesses come in, they have the right tools so that they succeed and help revitalize the downtown area especially. We also recently have provided the Chamber with an intern that has been a significant help for the Chamber of Commerce as well. So we're here to answer the questions that you might need us to answer.
Any questions we have for the Small Business Development Center? Alderman Cole?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were about to put your butt. I was ahead of you. Sorry about that.
I was just gonna say, I hope that you get really busy soon.
Oh, we
already are.
We are busy.
Good, that'd be good.
So I guess I'll ask some questions.
Sure.
What opportunities do you see that you can help Livingston and Overton County?
We are currently working with a couple of businesses that are looking to relocate to the Livingston area.
Okay.
We had a conversation about that. There's looking to be a new motorcycle shop that's looking to come in, so this is going to be something that will be fun and exciting.
Okay.
So we're helping them with location, real estate financing, business plan, marketing.
So I would hope that, and I know that you all have sure met Ms. Cantrell at the Chamber, do we need to set up a small business meeting after hours for anyone in Livingston or Overton County?
Yes,
that has a small business, and they can come in and you all can kind of tell them
Right.
what's
After our strategy sessions, the summer strategy sessions that the UCDD hosts, we are going to be setting up at the Chamber from
Okay.
1 to 3. That date is
August the 20th.
August the 20th. Okay.
And then we'll be, in September, we'll be at the
Clark
business
House
hours.
for the business after hours. Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay. So at that time, I guess, Shannon, is there going to be businesses that's going to be coming in after hours after the August 20th? Is that, we're going
That's
to
the
make an
plan,
announcement
yes,
to
it
the
went
business?
out, in our last newsletter, and I am about to send out over another round, this week, as a matter of fact.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, appoint Diane Robbins to the Property Maintenance Advisory Board.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman,
Second.
second by Alderman Dale. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Vice Mayor Dawson.
Yes.
Alderman Langford.
No.
Alderman Spett.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Gale.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no. Motion passed.
Thank you. Item number 4, resolution 2020-8-1, be a resolution for the town of Livingston, Tennessee, authorizing the assurance of interest-bearing general obligation paid in capital outlay notes, series 2020, amount not to exceed $1 million, and providing the payment of the said notes. The municipality estimates that the life of the project has an economic life greater than 10 years. The municipality finds determines if the project will promote or provide a traditional government activity or otherwise fulfill a public purpose. In order to proceed expeditiously as possible with such an essential project, it is necessary the interest-bearing capital outlay notes be issued for the following, providing funds to finance project in. The municipality is authorized by the provisions of Title 9, Chapter 21, Tennessee Code Annotated, and submitted to issue such notes for said purposes upon the approval of the Director of Division of Local Government Finance. The Director of Division of Local Government Finance. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Town of Livingston, as follows. It goes on there. This is the resolution 2020-8-1. This is the note to do $1 million worth of payment in Livingston.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Dodson,
Second.
second by Alderman Speck. Any discussion?
This is the earmark from the, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Langford.
Yes.
Alderman Spett.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Gale.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dawson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Item number 5 is a hazardous mitigation plan. Miss Marcy Ackerman. Marcy, just an update on kind of where we are. I know you're via Zoom. Good evening.
Everybody hear me okay?
We can now.
Thank you guys for letting me zoom in. Unfortunately, right now, I don't really have a good update. We're still waiting on FEMA to approve your countywide plan, hazard mitigation plan, and then once that gets approved, it'll go back to the communities to ratify it. And when you guys ratify and approve it, then we can go ahead and submit the grant.
Okay, so we're kind of in the hurry up and wait mode. Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I think this corona got everybody kind of thrown off, so I think that's probably what the holdup is.
So would we have typically had results sooner? I mean, this is not typical, you're saying?
She probably can't.
I couldn't hear him, so I'm
My
sorry.
apologies. Typically, we would have done something before now. You're saying this is atypical, that we're still waiting on the approval?
Right, I think it would have been approved months ago, but when everybody from the state went to go work at home, I think everything kind of got put on pause.
Yes.
But the project itself is not a very quick moving thing. Like it can take up to 3 years sometimes once we actually do submit to actually get somebody out to, evaluate the properties and give me appraisals and then get quotes for demolition and cleanup. I mean, it can be a long process, but it should have been farther along than it is now.
Any questions for Ms. Ackerman?
It's not a specific question for you, but I do have an observation that I would like to share. I know we've discussed this in our council before as it relates to stormwater drainage and altering The flood zone over in the Dillon Pond area, clearly we realize that there's significant dirt being moved over there in that floodplain by one of our private property owners, which is obviously within his rights to do so. But I think it's important to realize that any time we've talked about this and talked about this, just like when the food line was built on private property, when we infill floodplain areas, it will exacerbate our pond flooding issue. So, just for the record.
Thank you, Alderman Coleman. Is there anything else for Ms. Eckerman? Okay, Ms. Marcy, you're off the hook. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Okay. 5 seconds.
Yeah.
All right, item number 6 is MTAS Fire Consultant, Mr. Dennis Wolf. Mr. Wolf did a firefighter staffing study. He also did a multi-year plan, and this is in the hands of the board if they want to move on that plan that Mr. Wolf from MTAS would like to see us do, or you take no action, or how we want to do it.
Okay, well, I guess I'll speak. I realize that this is going to come down to a funding issue. You formally recommended that the city of Livingston hire additional firefighters.
Yes, sir.
Recent example, we were understaffed. We know there's a need. So it's up to us to find a way to fund it. And so I think that's our challenge. We got to do it. It's got to happen. And it's up to us to figure it out. That's what citizens expect. So I don't know if we need to have an additional meeting or a work session, do a budget amendment, but we need to find a way to make it happen, and we need to hire 2 more firefighters, and we need to get on track with this and solve this problem. It's a desperate need that we have, and we can't wait. We've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I don't have the answer in terms of how we figure out the budget issue, but unfortunately it's on us, we've got to figure it out.
Yeah. So a couple of things that you talked about there. What and I agree if we need to sit down and have a work session and try to find the money. I think, and I'm just some options here, okay, that going into the budget of next year, which would be July of 2021. That would at least give us some time to get under what Mr. Wolf has recommended next fiscal year. Is that correct, Mr. Wolf? Or was your recommendation to go in effect next fiscal year, or immediately, or what was it?
I didn't make a time recommendation because it's up to y'all to fund it, so I don't know.
Well, the only reason I said that is because it says a multi-year plan.
Yes, sir.
So, and I thought this was on a 5-year plan. Am I wrong?
It's 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Actually, it could, if you added 1 firefighter per year, it could take 12 years to get 4 firefighters per shift. So it can be a 5-year plan, a 7-year plan. It's just a multi-year plan.
Well, we had plans, if you remember, Kelly, and you brought up a good point on understanding the duties, exactly what the fire department does. If you remember back in budget meetings, we budgeted X amount of dollars. If you remember, the fire department budget came in a little bit high, and I reminded you that it's because of the traffic lights and how much extra, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was basically about $80,000, $85,000, I think, is what we needed to do. We've got all of our firemen are certified to work on traffic lights, and that was something new that we just simply hadn't done. We had depended on the city of Cookville, and for aid, they still came up and help us because, but that service has somewhat went to the wayside. So it was up to Livingston now to take care of their own traffic lights. So that's why we went and got everyone certified in that. So there is money there to hire a person and get some equipment that we needed. Now, we obviously had some, if you all seen, as Chief Dow said, had some lightning hit us the other day down West Main there at the McDonald's area. So, but that could start the process there, and the money's there now. For one.
Am I understanding you correctly to say that the money is in the budget now to do one if we just reallocate?
That's right, that's right. Well, it's in the fire department.
It's already in the budget.
Yeah, I was going, yes.
Okay, so with that said, with all due respect, I don't think we can wait another year or two to figure this out and agree we got to do now. But Rocky, within your budget, is there any way you could defer? Do you see any ways that you could defer any equipment purchases or things in order for us to utilize some of those funds toward personnel?
I don't think there was anything in our equipment that, I mean, we had radios and papers and turnout gear. I mean, Colin, it's been with a year and a half ago, I had turnout gear. We've got about him set of turnout gear. And I think there was one more that his turnout gear was damaged, it's got to be replaced.
Yeah, and the biggest cost in the fire department was the traffic lights. But the way our system has worked is, even though you hired a traffic light technician, you also got a fireman. And so they will have another fireman on duty along with a technician. That's just kind of double dip that a little bit for the traffic lights and the fire department.
Can you hire a firefighter and defer the costs and expenses of their EMT training for a year? Do you have to invest in that training for them in the first year, or can you defer that? I mean, if you've got 4...
Well, you can wait on the EMT training.
That's what I'm saying.
If there's somebody there that's certified or qualified, we can wait on that.
That's what I asked. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying, Mayor, that we should have some money in the firefighting budget to hire one additional firefighter. Okay. So that gives you one more. I think I may have found some money that might allow you to get 2. And I've noticed that we did not factor in the savings that we're going to see from installing LED traffic lights in this town, which is, we expect 40 to 50 grand. We did not put that in our budget, that savings.
That's right.
So that might be a pool of money where you have enough money to redirect some money to him to get the second one. I think it would be, I would implore y'all to study that and look at the potential to be able to just hire 2 right off. Because I think you're going to have a little cushion there.
Okay.
What does our penny bring in to be?
$8,600.
So we're looking at 4 cents.
Yeah. There is some more money coming in from the state, Chris, that we're supposed to get, I think, in the amount of $129,000. Now, we haven't received that money yet, and I think this is all COVID relief money that we should be getting. And they've been talking about it, and I think now the ball is finally rolling. I've been getting some emails, I passed it on to Phyllis, and we've had to do some training on it, things of that nature. So, I mean, I think that we could do 2, like I said, 1 is budgeted now, and then that money should be in, if it's, you know, and then what I need to do, like what Kelly says, we need to compare our light bill, basically, to see if we've got the savings.
That's 4 cents an employee.
What?
I'm saying, it's going to be 4 cents extra an employee for every employee. We're looking
For the next budget process.
Yeah.
Right. I would make the motion that by the time we meet at our next council meeting, that you work with Rocky and bring us a plan to hire 2 right now, with our goal of hiring 2 more in next year's budget, to add 4 over the next 12 months, because we're already, basically a month into this year. So, I'd like to see a plan, and I would also like to see y'all really critically sit down and figure out how do you prioritize what those folks in the fire department have to do. I mean, there's got to be somebody at that fire hall ready to get in on the engine and get to a fire. And if you're going out to take temperature somewhere, you better be taking a fire truck with you. Sit down and really analyze that. Make sure that our #1 priority is fire safety. But I make the motion that y'all come back to us with a plan at the September meeting. September meeting. With a plan to hire 2 right now.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Does it need to be before September?
If they can figure it out, sure.
Before the budget.
My motion is to have a plan to hire them by the next council meeting. But if you can do it before then, and you want to do a work session, I'm all for that.
Never mind,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, roll call vote, Ms. Fritz.
Alderman Stick,
Yes.
Alderman Tillman,
Yes.
Alderman Bell,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed. We will have you a plan in September.
Hey, before we move on to the next item, I'd just like to ask you, Mr. Wolf mentioned something earlier that I never thought of, but it might be a lot of work, about the possibility of volunteers coming in and doing some shifts for this nominal fee that he's seen other departments do. Would that be a feasible plan?
It would if you could get them to come in, but most of them work 50, 60 hours a week. So,
Okay.
I mean, by the time they work that,
I understand.
I mean, right here's one. You can ask him. Right here's some more, ask them. And they work 40, 50 hours a week, they're done.
I understand. I just thought if that was another possibility, as in addition to what we're talking about, that I'd like to pursue anything that we can to help.
I mean, so when you bring them in like that, you've got to get all their training done before they can ever go to the fire. They've got to have
I never have really understood. I know that the traffic lights and everything's a big part of your budget. Is that correct?
It's part of the budget, yes.
Why does the traffic lights fall to the fire department?
I can answer that. Several years ago, before I got here and before you was on the board, we was hiring out of Alabama. What's the name of it? Temple and Son. And the expense just got through the roof.
I understand that, but why did it fall to his department?
I'm trying to get there.
Okay.
So when Rocky started as a fire, actually he was assistant fire chief then.
Right.
And he assumed the role under
So he just
Mayor
assumed
Winston.
that we dumped it on him. Why isn't it going to the police department, street department, or somebody else that, instead of having, I mean, to me, he's not supposed to be out here directing traffic, and I appreciate him doing it. Because I seen him down there putting in the time, don't know if you seen me or not, I was watching you. You was there. And I really appreciate that. But why is he having to do it? Why is it coming out of his budget?
That was started back when Jose was here. John Tom was doing it to start with. Had been working on the lights. Then they went to Temple. It was costing them an outrageous fee.
I understand that. But why is traffic lights fire?
Because the mayor said, you go do this.
There you go. There you go.
The end of the story. Just like if he tells me to go out there and get in that vehicle, go up here and set and block the road, we'll go over and set and block that road. He's my
You answered my question. I just didn't know why that you was having to do it.
That's how it all comes about. Because the mayor then, Jose, said, you go do this. He sent me to Cook for 2 days to sit with Tommy Winningham to learn how to work on these lights.
David, I think that's a great question, and I think once we see that list of all the things that they're being asked to do.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate him doing it, he was there. I appreciate you both. But I I don't see the consistency between traffic lights and fire.
It was all a money deal, is what it all boiled down to.
Okay. I don't know.
Mr. Item number, I'm sorry, is there anything else for Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wolf. Have a safe trip to Jackson. Item number 7 is Mr. Ben Winningham here. Ben Winningham. So Mr. Winningham was going to advise us that there will be an electric car hookup, charging station that will be down at Central Park in one of the parking lots there. And that will be at no cost to the city of Livingston. UCEMC will be doing that. And it will be in the parking lot next to McHenry Circle, facing where the storage buildings are. That's where the spot will be. This will be at no cost to the city of Livingston.
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask that you all add one other thing back to this fire issue. Would y'all also report back to us, please, on the feasibility of doing that automatic mutual aid call when the calls go into 911 and kind of give us some kind of feedback and report on that in September?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Item number 8 is a update on the sandwich boards in downtown. We've had some requests for sandwich boards to be put on the public sidewalks in front of businesses like you see in other communities. And we ran into a couple of issues. A is our sidewalks are not wide enough. And going with TDOT regulations, they're wanting a 5-foot clearance of sidewalks that would accommodate ADA, which is Americans with Disabilities Act. If you was in a wheelchair, if wheelchairs pass each other, you're supposed to be able to have a clearance. So with some help, I tried to accommodate, but there's just no way to get around that. We talked with TDOT, ADA compliance officer, Miss Margaret Moeller, from TDOT, and she was just crystal clear on it. Now, however, there is a way that if you want to have a sandwich board type board above your head that can be 6 foot 8 inches to the bottom of this board. If anybody would want to do that, I'm working with Main Street and the Chamber to try to come up with a uniform type sign that would say Main Street Livingston or something like that. So there'd probably be just a small fee, whatever it costs to get the signs or whatever. That's where we are at on that.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
So if there's an excess of 5 feet, are we saying no sandwich boards? Is that what you said? If we have a sidewalk that's 8 feet, what's?
If you in fact have a sidewalk of 8 feet, then you would be fine.
Okay.
However, and once I got back and I went and spoke to several merchants today, we have a sidewalk that has some ornamental bricks in it, decorative bricks, I should say. And that's some clarification that I'm going to get with Ms. Moeller. It seems that, in my opinion, that would count as being part of the sidewalk. Okay. Now, it is Christian's understanding that it's not a poured substance. It's not a poured sidewalk, so therefore that would count now according to that. But we're going to get some clarification on that.
Okay, thank you. I know, there are towns that have
absolutely
brick pavers for sidewalks. So, but I appreciate your work on that.
Yeah.
What about the citizen that's not in the downtown area that wants a sign? How do they go about getting a sign?
Well, so the ADA, Chris, is everybody's business is really responsible for their own. If you're not ADA compliant, then you stand the risk of the city or the state, someone coming in saying you're not ADA compliant. The rule of thumb is you gotta have a 5 foot clearance. And it's a 5 foot clearance. If you have table chairs, if you have a planter, if you have, it's supposed to be 5 foot clearance of that.
If
And,
there's no sidewalk,
excuse me?
what if there's no sidewalk?
Well, I mean, you can't put it down the street.
It wouldn't be a street, one side of the street.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be funny, but what are you talking?
It's not on a sidewalk or a street, it's on the side. Part of it.
Okay, well.
You know where I'm talking about.
Yeah, so then we're talking about off-premise signs. And even though, if we had the footage on the sidewalks, then we would have to look at amending our existing sign ordinance, okay? To allow that to be on the sidewalk if there is 5 foot clearance. However, what I think in the case that you're talking about is we'd have to revisit the entire sign ordinance if someone wants to put a sign of their business not on their premises, but off their premises. That would have to rewrite the whole ordinance, Chris. We could take a look at it, if that's what you'd like to do. I'll give you a copy of the ordinance, take a stab at it, and go from there. The only problem is, obviously what you do for one, you have to do for them all. So, I know the council back several years ago, said that we had too many signs, and off-premise signs. And that's why the ordinance came into existence. So I hope I've answered your questions. But we'd be happy to take a look at it, if that's what you want.
What specifically are you referring to?
There were several signs on Daughter Street, not just one, there was 2. I'm sure there are other places, Christian could probably tell you, I don't know. But there are off-premises signs throughout the city. I know we've been in a lawsuit sign issue, we don't want to go back down that road. If we could look at it again, and maybe.
I'll send the sign ordinance out.
I have 3 of them.
Okay.
I don't need another copy.
Okay.
We just need to maybe look over it, see if we can change it.
Sure. I'll take a look at it, Chris.
Thank you.
I have a question on signs for Christian. On North Church Street, there's the old Sherman-Dixie concrete tile standing, 2 concrete pipes standing on. That was a sign. And then there's 2 more out there, looks like they're busted out and stuff. Just, can you look at those? I mean, if they're no longer even a business there, and it's got a sign for a business, can we take action on those and get rid of them?
I mean, I don't know that falls under our sign ordinance, as far as an existing tile of that nature. I mean, we can definitely look at it and talk to the,
Well, any sign that is busted out,
yeah.
surely we have it in our sign ordinance, we have some provision for addressing that. I'm just asking, can you look into that?
I will.
Especially if they're no longer business.
Sure, yeah, okay, thanks. I'm just tired of
Donut
saying.
zone's another
Yeah.
one.
Huh?
A donut zone's another one.
Yes, donuts on. I mean, there's several of those all over town,
We have to go
signs,
back on the
no
order
businesses.
of the original type.
They need to get rid of it.
All right, item number 9 is a quarterly report, Chief Etheridge, Police Department. Good report, Greg.
Well,
Rather lengthy, but thank you.
I started it, so I gave you the first 6 months. From January to July the 27th, just as an overview, we charged with street arrest charges, like where somebody arrest warrant was filed and went to jail, 139. We wrote 532 citations between January 1 and July 27. We worked 18 accidents that had injuries, 129 accidents without injury. Those numbers are actually low because during the virus, the initial phase, there was a lot less accidents than normal. Yes, sir.
Does your fire department respond to non-accident vehicle crashes?
Typically, no, but sometimes we'll arrive, like I have one Saturday, and we get there, and then we find out we think somebody may be injured. 786 people came to the police department. That's what we call a walk-in. That can be for any variety of things. Then, as you kind of heard about CAD calls, so CAD is computer-aided dispatch. And the total calls between January and July 27th for the PD was 8,862. Now, some of those are where people's called for one of these accidents or for a domestic. Some are self-initiated by the officers, i.e. a traffic stop, this, that, and the other. But it's a thing. Some things take 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Some things take hours. So I kind of did a short category list of those. Just these are calls for service. So 6 for assaults, 58 for domestics, 22 for DUI, 6 for public intoxication, 121 reckless driver calls. Those are typically the 5 o'clock in the afternoon coming in off 111. 3 for burglary, 35 for theft, 22 for shoplifting, 423 escorts. Those are things we do, everything from a funeral to a business at night, even the trash truck following them to make sure they're safe. And then that general investigation category is 400, which can kind of encompass all kinds. That was just kind of an overshot, and that represented 1,116 of that 8,862. So, and of course, I sent you all the data if you want me to go over all the different types of assaults.
In fact, I'm the one that asked for that report, so let me clarify what I would love to see.
Okay.
Back years ago, the police department used to publish in the local paper every week or every month a report that said we had 21 DUIs, we had 16 shoplifting, we had 16 speeding tickets. That's all I'd like to see once a month.
Can we do it quarterly?
One sheet, just a few little categories, and that's all. Real simple.
Yeah, it would typically be, it would have to be almost a month behind to get the actual data.
That's totally fine. Usually a look back is common, so just, I want to know how many speeding tickets we're writing. You know, people complain we're not writing the tickets in the valley. Well, are we writing any? Well, we don't know because we don't see a report. So, you know, just give us the very basics.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, chief.
Sir.
Next is a quarterly report from Chief Dow, Fire Department.
You all have these.
Excuse me, Greg, you forgot an item of yours.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Roger. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it, and I was waiting for you. Officer Jean Phillips that we hired as an SRO, she came from Putnam County, and she'd served many years. She had started a restaurant in Monterey, and so she's decided that she's basically retired and headed to that endeavor. So I have Mr. Ragsdale that came to us almost, it was like a blessing, because he had just graduated Walter State Academy. He was actually recommended to me by 2 other chiefs at the full. And we would not have to send him to the academy as a certified officer, and we'd like to hire him in replacement of Officer Phillips.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions for the chief? If not, we entertain a motion.
Motion to hire him. Officer.
Motion made by Alderman Speck. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say that I've worked some with Miss Phillips, and she done a great job, and we'll miss her. Fine person, wish her the best.
Absolutely.
Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Councilman Dawson,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed. Okay, Mr. Dow, now you can come on up. My apologies.
You have these in your package. We had, this is from May to July the 27th. One, the weather-related call. 2 special incident calls, 7 service calls, 177 medical calls, 2 hazardous conditions, 5 good intent, 9 car calls, and 7 false alarm calls. I did not include all the, like you said, the escorts of the crash truck, they're not in here. This is just what we do, the chief's reports there.
170, how many medical calls?
77.
Yeah, okay. Wow. And they need a firefighter every time?
If there's an ambulance calls to the scene, there's a first responder usually there.
Yes. And that started several years ago when the lady had the heart attack, and I think it was on the square up here, and the ambulance was tied up, they couldn't respond. You might have got that call about that one.
Let me ask you this, if it's Monday through Friday, you're in your shift, you're in your normal hours, how many firefighters respond typically at a time?
Generally one, I generally stay at the station unless it's something major going on.
So if somebody tries to stay at the station all the time?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, what is a good intent call?
That could have been somebody called in and said that they see smoke in an area, if they get there and determine that it's nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Next, quarterly report, property maintenance, Christian Mansfield.
This is our report on property maintenance.
Please go ahead, Christian, please. Thank you.
This is our report on property maintenance that started on March 4th in 2019, and it's Title 13 Property Maintenance Regulations, Chapter 1, 2, 4, and Chapter 5. And in Chapter 1 on the miscellaneous code, we've had 49 properties that have been brought before the board. 35 are now in compliance. 6 properties are on the August 11th agenda under old business. 4 properties are on the August 11th under new business. 1 property is state-owned and is in litigation with their heirs. And 3 properties were cleaned by the city. On the Chapter 2, abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, and operable vehicles, 24 vehicles have been brought before the board. 20 are now in compliance. 2 are on the August 11th agenda under old business. 2 are under the agenda under new business. In Chapter 4 are slum clearance. We've had 9 properties that has been considered a slum. 1 is on the August 11th agenda under old business. We have none under new business. 2 have had liens placed on the properties. 3 have been boarded up. That was from the hearings that we've had with Ms. Williams. Actually, it says 1 has been torn down by the owner. That is 2 properties, and 1 has been restored, and 1 property has been recently sold and is in the process of being reworked. And on Chapter 5 of junkyards, we have no properties been sold on junkyards.
Thank you, Christian. Is there any questions for Christian Mansfield?
Yes. What's the status of the old co-op building?
The old co-op building they had a hearing on it, and he was found that he had to keep the building boarded up so it couldn't be habitable, used as a habitable space. And so he was found in compliance at that hearing.
So it's currently in compliance?
It is currently in compliance.
Okay. And this may be a question for Mr. Meadows, but what do we determine is our course of action when a property is outside of compliance, clearly overgrown, et cetera, and it's held up in a probate situation? Did we find out what the city's authority is to take action? I'm just curious, I never really got a response to that. Excuse me. I mean, do we just have to sit there until it goes out of probate, or can we take action? What do we do?
No, if there's any properties that are actually, if the owners of the property is deceased and there is an estate open, then I've talked with Christian about law in Tennessee is when someone passes away and they own an interest in real estate, then whatever interest that is by statute will automatically vest in their heirs at law.
Mm-hmm.
If they die without a will, if they die with a will, then it would be vested in the beneficiaries designated in the will. So what I've instructed Christian to do, or advised him, is that anytime you have that situation where we have a piece of property and the owner of record is deceased, the city needs to make a concentrated effort to try and identify who are the people entitled to proper notice now. Once those folks are identified, then the city would just send notice to them like they would the decedent and follow the standard course of action. If that entails us having to go clean up the property, we would do that and then, assess the cost to the owner.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows. And one last question. Do we have a final eviction date for the Grace Kirkendall property?
No, we do not have a final date. I've actually been recused of that case just because of some ties that I had with it. And so I am still in the background, as far as knowing what's going on. And
well, my question may be then to Mr. Meadows. Do we have a final eviction date? And I know Chief Edwards, you're involved in that. Is there a date that we've set that is a final determined date? Because I think there's this.
Yeah.
It seems like it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Right.
So that property will be going from the property maintenance. That's Sloan. And the property maintenance will be meeting on August.
Okay, so basically the clock is restarting. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Christian?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number 12, bush hogging on private property. Mr. Meadows.
Yes, Mayor Ward Alderman, since the last time we met, I've been asked to look into whether or not it would be appropriate for the city to use city staff, city funds, city equipment to bush hog private property. And I understand there have been situations in the past where maybe there's been a field or an overgrown lot or something of that nature, and other neighbors have complained because of it increases the infestation of rodents and maybe mosquitoes and pests and things of that nature. However, my recommendation to the city is that there be no bush hogging on any private lot within the town of Livingston, except for, as provided for in section 13 of our property maintenance regulations. And under those regulations, if there is an overgrown lot, it's not the responsibility of the city to mow that lot or use city funds or equipment to do that, but that responsibility falls on the property owner. So if there is a lot, and if Mr. Mansell investigates that and finds that they're in violation because they've got an overgrown or dirty lot, he would need to provide them the proper notice like he would any other property that's in violation of any other property maintenance code, and follow the same procedure. Now, ultimately, if the property owner does not take responsibility and address it by bush hogging their own lot and taking care of it, then the city could enter upon the property to take care of that. However, a bill would be sent to the property owner, and if they didn't pay it, then the city would assert a lien on the property that the city would then collect along with our illegal property taxes. So that's the only lawful way, in my opinion, that could be done, bush hogging on private property. So I hope that clears that issue up. Any questions on that?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Why is this item being brought up now anyway? We've done it for the past 40 years.
Because I brought it up.
Oh, yes, you did. Right out here just as soon as you took office. Right out here at the parking lot to me.
Because it's illegal.
I'm gonna tell you something, Kelly, or Mayor Coleman. If you think you've got a problem with the property maintenance now, you just quit. There'll be lots that you can't see. I had a 90-year-old gentleman call me just a couple of days ago. Said the city really been good to him. Did he call the rest of us? Yes. Did he call you fellas? Told me he's gonna try to call every one of us. And he said he's 90-year-old. He said he's too old to get on a tractor. He said that it's too late these days to hire somebody. And I mean, I'm gonna tell you, it may be illegal or whatever. It may be illegal today, and tomorrow we may see somebody we want to take care of. It may be right tomorrow. And I'm gonna tell you something. I was here when it started. I also know that it don't cost that much to do it. If you want to just get down to the dollar figure, it don't cost that much. And if you think you got a problem now, you just wait till you quit mowing the lots.
Can a work order be put in and pay the city to do that?
I mean, if it is against the law, who in the world is gonna fuss on getting their yard mowed?
The reason I asked is because I have a lot behind the funeral home, the city's always pushing on and kept maintaining for me, I appreciate that, but I can't drive my tractor 13 miles from Rickman with the bush hog on the back just to do that. Can I do a work order and get that done? Is that legal?
Not according to this, you can't do none of it.
Well, we're talking about doing it for free. I think if it's properly compensated, the rate, I don't know if that's going to be an issue. The problem we have here, and of course this is my recommendation as your all's council, I don't know how that the town of Livingston can enforce property maintenance regulations or a dirty house ordinance against somebody and get a lien on their property, but then do it for free for other residents in the town of Livingston. You're going to have to treat them all the same. And the other thing is, you know, using public funds and public equipment for that private purpose is considered illegal, and that could trigger an investigation from the comptroller's office. And if it's going on, then anybody, any elected official, board member, or mayor or officer would be required to report that to the comptroller's office, and that's the state law.
I'll tell you,
if we don't like it, I think the legislature.
In my defense, David, I took an oath. I took an oath to the people of this community that elected me to do what's right. And I can't sit by and see public funds used on
You
private.
folks do whatever you want to. I was here when it started, the mayor come right along. During that time, he's seen it done, everything else, and I mean, if you want, you've already upped people's taxes, if you want to start cutting their services, put it in the paper, people.
I'll stand on the side of doing right any day. And if you think that using public funds on private property is okay,
Used to, we would haul.
that doesn't make it right.
Used to, we would take one load of rock.
That doesn't make it right.
Nobody had a problem
Times
with
have
that.
changed.
Now, do we still haul any rock if they pay for it? With that, I got that call tonight.
They do.
Who cut that up? I didn't know nothing about it, cause that's better than go.
David, the mayor said already tonight, what we do for one, you do for all.
I understand that.
Okay.
What's the problem?
So do you want the city to come mow your yard?
If they want to. And I'll tell you something else, Mayor Coleman, you probably let them mow yours.
There's a public purpose doctrine.
You do whatever you want to. You've all got opinions. I've got mine.
That every alderman was taught and trained on when we went to the required in-task training. And the public purpose doctrine is very clear. Public funds cannot be used on private property. I'm sorry you feel differently, but I will stand on the side of right every time. In fact, John, if you would clarify, the way the public purpose doctrine reads is it is illegal for any work to be done utilizing public funds on private property. Is that not correct?
With very few limited exceptions, such as that has to do with very few limited exceptions, such as having to do with the installation of water lines and things of that nature. But that's state law. I didn't make the law, and I feel that that is the state law.
Well, I have an obligation to try to help our town follow the law. So with that, I am.
So what about the work order situation?
So you're out. You're out.
Chris, I think you can hire somebody to go under your arm.
No, it's not your, it's a deal. What about your opinion? Can we do a work order?
It don't matter if you write a book.
I don't think the city can do the work for free.
Well, of course, I would be willing to pay, but how do we set this up?
I think according to what has been said here, if you didn't bush hog your lot and there is a complaint filed on it, and then you will have going from the property maintenance advisor board, there will be a violation sent. And then if you didn't clean it up, then yes, the city can bush hog. And you will have either 30 or 60 days, we would send you an invoice and
I
then
understand the good stuff.
you can pay.
But I do have to wait the 90 days to get the bill to even get it cut.
I mean, whatever the ordinance says, yeah. But it would be cut, and then he would have to pay the bill. If he didn't pay the bill, there'd be a lien on the property. Yeah.
Could donate the property to the city, I guess, not the county. I don't use it anyway.
I just bet you after time there'll be some young entrepreneur that come around the city advertising for bush hog.
Dave, I mean, Mr. Meadows, the public purpose doctrine does apply to this, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the public purpose doctrine applies to any county municipality that manages taxpayer money, and that is that, you know, those are public funds that are generated from taxes that's paid by the public, and any uses of those funds has to be solely for a public purpose. And
It's in my
No, it's not, it's definitely not rocket science, I'll be honest with you, but I mean, these people that's got accustomed to this short on this. And, you know, this is Livingston, I'm sorry.
Okay, I've got, item number, is there any other questions from Mr. Meadows on that issue? If not, we'll go to, item number 13, amendment on the property maintenance ordinance.
I apologize, I feel like I'm on Family Feud trying to hit the button here. I'm sorry. At the last city council meeting, a motion was made for the property maintenance advisory board to only meet on an as-needed basis. In order for that to occur, some changes are going to have to be made to Title 13 of our property maintenance regulations, and actually amendments will need to be made to all 5 chapters of Title 13, because in each of those sections it provides a provision that when their codes official goes out and investigates and finds someone to be in violation, he is required to bring the matter before the property maintenance advisory board. And if they concur, then he proceeds with enforcement. So if the property maintenance board is only going to meet on an as-needed basis, then those various sections of code need to be amended to delete the requirement that the codes enforcement officer has to take every matter to the property maintenance board. So I have prepared a draft of a proposed ordinance to amend various sections of chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of Title 13 of the Livingston Municipal Code related to property maintenance regulations. The first proposed amendment is under Chapter 1, the miscellaneous provision for overgrown and dirty lots. It's just the way it was, with the exception that the codes official is not required to present that matter to the board, property PMAB. Same thing, Chapter 2, dealing with abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or inoperative vehicles, and also Chapter 4 that deals with the slum clearance, and Chapter 5 that deals with the junkyards. So this ordinance, the amendments that are made, deletes that requirement. And unless that ordinance is amended, the codes official will have to continue presenting each violation to the property maintenance advisory board. Now, Chapter 3 of Title 13 is the ordinance that created the property maintenance board that required it to meet monthly. An amendment has been made to that it just meet on an as-needed basis for purposes of making policy decisions or proposing amendments to our existing property maintenance regulations, or upon request of our codes official when he needs assistance or guidance in dealing with any of these enforcement issues, he could request them to call a meeting, and that's what these amendments accomplish. Until then, I think the property maintenance advisory board needs to continue to meet, and our codes official will need to continue presenting each case to that board.
All right, thank you, John. Is there a motion to accept these amendments to the property maintenance?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
It's late.
Yeah, I know. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? This is on the amendments, property maintenance about roll call, Ms. Phillips, please.
Alderman Dan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Mattson.
No.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no. Motion passed.
4 yes, 1 no, motion passed. Item number 14 is the advertising of the bids. Also, you got all your city streets in there that we think is going to round up close to $1 million. And so I just need the board to, if any package to approve this, let's go ahead and start advertising, open up the bids on August 24th.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you think we can do all these streets that you got listed? I counted right, that's about 36, 37
That's
streets.
right. Yeah, for $1 million.
You think we can do every one
Yeah.
of them? That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, but we need to do 36 more.
I understand that.
Did you go around and measure the
Yes,
width of
yes.
things and
Yes.
figure the cubic yards per street? So
If you run out of money on the end, are you going to do them in order that you got listed?
No, well, so we're gonna have a bid. So the bid will let us know real quick where we stand. If we go off, yeah, if we go off that over $1 million, we'll just have to back up and take the streets off. I mean, that's gonna happen. So that, we will put that bid notice in the paper, as early as tomorrow as we can, and then, open the bids on the 24th, and then the Board of Aldermen, will meet again on the 7th, September the 8th, because September the 7th is Labor Day. So we'll meet September the 8th, we approve the bids, and then it will be, I think we'll put in there a 60-day, 2-month contract, September the 9th, and the paving to be complete by November the 9th.
Mayor, in your all's, is there any striping required on this street?
I did not add striping to it. I did not.
Are there any other streets that are on your list that require striping? Do you know?
I mean, they're all side streets. I'm not saying side streets are not important.
Probably
but
not.
No.
Permanent
Yeah. We've never done that because it seems to add the cost of.
No, I realize that. I'm just saying if we're not resurfacing a street that is already striped, that we have to add the cost
That's
to
correct.
restripe.
That's correct. Yes. So if these streets are suffice, whatever one, then I need a motion to accept those streets. Motion made by Alderman Bell, second by Alderman Coleman. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
I want to just, I'll say something real quick. He said, first, never mind, I'm going to keep going. Sorry.
All right. Roll call, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Alderman Coleman.
Yes.
Alderman Daniel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Mattson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Mr. Ben Winningham has come in. If you want to address the council real quick on what you plan on doing down Central Park. Thank you, Benjamin.
I apologize for my lateness. At my work, my nickname is Beaver, and you remember the television show, Leave It to Beaver? Leave It to Beaver. It's going to happen.
It happens.
Okay, so just real quick, UCMC has received a federal grant through a professor at Tennessee Tech University to install a electric car charging station for a 3-year study. They chose Livingston, they chose UCMC. This is our first round of this. I'm kind of blind at it, but let's give it a shot. So me and the mayor, Shannon Cantrell, and Michael Hayes met up over there at the new park to pick a look location. We do have a location found. Through this grant, UCEMC will provide the material, labor, and the meter setting. We have a rep already lined out to come and install the actual charger itself. And so we was planning on maybe just coming in there, maybe having some assistance from you all.
Right.
We'll have to do a road board.
Right.
But there'll be no cost for the city all the way through, and UCMC will just keep the meter in their name. It is a 3-year project, so at the end of 3 years, I don't know what will happen there. Whether the city wants to take it over, we keep it, who knows? I think the demand for an electric car charger right now in Livingston is kind of low. However, in time, I think it will.
I haven't been asked about it before, so if we've got one, so I think this is really good.
Well, I mean, we've got a corner of the parking lot down there picked out. We've done got a game plan, just need to squeeze the trigger.
Yeah, thank you, UCMC. You got a question?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this thing gonna work like a gas pump? You pull up to it, plug into it,
Just
and
pull up, plug up,
pay for it right there at the
Right
spot, or is it charge you, or what?
pay for it right there, swipe the debit card, pay for it, head out the road.
So you've been asked about the electric cars?
Yeah. Sure have.
I haven't run into any.
Several times.
Yeah. So, okay, is there any questions for Mr. Winningham?
Thank you.
Okay.
Again, this is kind of new, we're kind of being the guinea pigs on it, so
You're doing the best.
And
can't hurt nothing, right?
thank you very much for coming.
Right, yes.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Okay, so August 6th from 10 to 1, Warren Nebat of MTS will be here for the new Alderman orientation, and all Aldermen are invited if they want to attend. It's up to them. So August 6th at 10 o'clock.
Speaking of that, congratulations, Rexdale, on your completion of, how many hours of training did you do?
12.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And we have in our audience tonight, Dr. Clough, who was our newly elected alderman. You'll get to do that training as well. We're all about public purpose soccer.
So also, Kelly, when we was talking about revenue, I forgot this was in your packet. Our risk management insurer sent us a COVID relief check of $26,903.
There you go.
That I don't know if any other insurance companies do that, but we did with that.
Great, that's awesome.
Okay, no other business, need a motion. We will meet on September the 8th. September the 8th.
Did you not put me on the agenda like I asked?
I'm sorry, I thought that you had spoke during the work session.
No, that was...
Please, we'll go right ahead, Mr. Cross.
Curtis, I hope you don't run for re-election. Because
You have 3 minutes, we're not going to do personal attack. 3 minutes.
That wasn't a personal attack,
Okay.
that was a statement.
Okay.
Tell you what, folks, it's been enlightening to go through this. The fire department, they make an official report. Number 1, said nothing about the gas leak, that's where the fire started. Said nothing about the trouble we had getting it out. Number 2, said that a neighbor grabbed the hose. He sure did. I did too. Robert and Sharon did too. And there were police there before the truck got there, before the truck. Did they come up and grab hold of the hose? No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
The police didn't?
The police did not. Thank God that later, a little bit later, Bruce got there. Bruce Matthews, I think he's a sergeant, I'm not sure. He started coordinating, and then they got the second hose hooked up because the pumper was down to a quarter, and they were going to run out of water for the one hose that Rob and I had putting on the fire. The other thing is, we heard in this report, the house was fully engulfed, which was based on a phone call. When the fire truck got there, it was
the storage room where it started, it was the carport, and it was the patio. It had not even gotten into the kitchen yet. So it was definitely not fully engulfed. I am so tired of the COI-OA crap going around, and part of it is just because people want to defend their territory and their judgment. They don't mean to twist it, but in their mind, that's the way it happened. But it wasn't the way it happened. I attended a meeting with the mayor, the police chief, and the fire chief. And I will tell all of you, it was a nice meeting, very professional. Poor Rocky had to call in because he was isolated for COVID. But the gist of the meeting ended up, we made no special plans for the July the 4th. There are, this is National Prevention Association, 19,500 fires a year are caused by fireworks. 28% of those fires occur on July 4th. Most home fires, other than that, occur on Saturday and Sunday between 6 and 7 p.m. So we should have had coverage that night, which it was explained before in the man before me from
Dennis
what?
Dennis Wolf.
Impact.
You know, and I'm glad after, when we got into this meeting, that y'all decided to try to fast track it. The first words put out were, well, we can put it in the budget for 2021 next July. Folks, we just found out that we were doing it wrong. Thank goodness, between Kelly, Ken, and Rocky, y'all kind of figured out a way that we can fast track it. And that's good, and that's the way it should be done. You know, we have 5 firemen, full-time I think it is, although today was 4. I didn't know that. 4. And we have 5 dispatchers. That doesn't sound like a good allocation of funds, especially when we have 911. And Kelly, I think you brought that up in the other meeting. So we need it. But I'm glad if you can find funds from somewhere without bothering anybody else's manpower, that's great. When you call 911 in this town, it doesn't go to the city dispatch. It goes to 911, I call the big 911, that's commanded by Chris Massendale. They then turn call the city. The city then, which by the way, it went very quick. I'm not complaining about that. It went very quick. Then the city calls the first responders. That's the way it works. And this, Curtis, I don't know if your memory is getting as bad as mine, but as the meeting ended, you informed me that a meeting with MTAS was scheduled for August the 28th. I don't know what happened that we had this tonight or that I wasn't involved anywhere since I've been trying to pursue the correction of this problem. But nevertheless, in fact, I wasn't even told that there was going to be a work session on this. If somebody hadn't advised me of they thinking that it was, I wouldn't have looked in the paper and saw that little bitty ad that we have in there that talks about the meeting. And it would be nice if we actually published the agenda of the meetings in the paper too. In fact, we don't ever get one. And Greg, the police chief, you let your anger get ahead of your professionalism. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, somebody said, oh, the police weren't standing around. One of the neighbors videoed the scene, and I hate to tell you this, but here's the policeman. While Rob and I are fighting a fire. I don't think it's because they didn't want to do something. I think they had never been coached and directed how they could help in a fire situation. That's a good asset. We have a great police department, in my opinion. It's well funded. You heard Greg's report earlier. They do good. But teach them how to assist in the case of a fire or any emergency that they don't know. But Greg got upset with my mother-in-law. She wanted to be sure that this fiasco did not happen to anyone else. So she visited each alderman in turn and described to them what happened. And one of the things she stated was that the police just stood around, and that was until Bruce got there. And he told us as he was leaving, if you see anyone at your house, you call the police, because they shouldn't be there. So we took that to heart. Robert and I spent the night there, and it's not too good for two old men to sleep sitting in your pickup all night long. And then we called the fire department back at 1:30 because we saw smoke coming out of the house. But I give them credit, they told us to look for hot spots. And we saw one, 3 trucks and about 5 men showed up at 1:30 to take care of that hot spot. They had to get the chainsaws, had to cut in, had to go, you know, they worked their rear ends off to get that hot spot put up. But 5 days later, my mother-in-law, Sharon, most of y'all know her, driving by the house at 5:10 a.m. There are 4 grown teenagers standing in the driveway, not at the street, but, I guess probably 50 foot up the driveway. She stops and asked them what they were doing. They told her none of her effing business. Then 2 of the boys told her, F you. You don't have the right to ask us anything. Sharon goes home, she calls Greg. Greg said, what do you want now, Sharon? So Sharon just hung up. Now she's still at the house. Greg runs to the house, stops and talks to another officer was there by that time. Stops and talks to the officer. Then they come up to talk to Sharon. And for whatever reason, he called the other officer up, I guess to be a witness. I don't think my mother-in-law would whip him, but she is spicy. She came to the house and started talking with Sharon. And she felt that it was so adversarial that she just stopped and told Greg, I won't ever bother you again. Now Greg's a good man. He runs a good police department. But by God, all of you have let your dadgum anger and defense get in front of the job you're supposed to be doing. I got the CD, paid my $50 to get a copy of the 911 CD. I played it. It's very hard to understand because, and it's understandable, they're all talking on radios and background. But I did. I found 28 differences between the CD and the call report that Greg got. I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong. It just doesn't agree. I got a tag sheet from the big 911. The second day after. It states clearly that Engine 7 called in that he was there 15 minutes after the call. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if the other one's right. But I tell y'all what, if I could do in 5 minutes all of my life what I did in that 5 minutes waiting on that fire truck, I'd be more than a multimillionaire because I've accomplished about 10 times what I did in my life. I went in the house twice looking for the dog. I took a fire extinguisher, as Pandy called, tried to put the fire out in there, but it was useless. Never get a little bitty grease fire extinguisher. Get one about this tall, because they aren't worth a darn. I go, after that, Rob comes over, we go back in the house trying to find the dog. We also moved 3 cars away from the carport. Man, we are great that we can do all of this in less than 5 minutes. And here I am, damn near 80 years old. Although I'm probably in better shape than most of you in here. I want to point out that folks, when you're dealing with any government organization, it is tough to get the right information. All the way from the U.S. Senate, all of Congress, all the way down. I've had to deal with it through business, through the years, and it's terrible. And the tone was kind of set at the first meeting. When I got through talking, what was I told? No condolences, no I'm sorry. I was told, fill out a complaint form. That was it. Not a one of y'all said anything. I do want to thank you for getting MTAS involved as quick as you did, for getting the recommendations, and wanting to pursue those quicker. But things I've learned during this fire. Look at your insurance policy in detail. Jewelry coverage has a very small limit on most policies. Guns and ammo have a very small limit. Any coats with fur in them, whether they're fur coat or not, got a very small limit on them. Record items in your house. Don't be stupid like me. With the year, big items, with the year, when you bought them, what you paid for them, and who you bought them from. Because the insurance company asks for that. And you can write unknown. I don't know how good that's going to go in the final thing. If you have an emergency, if possible, have someone video it. There's too many things happen in this world that get shoved under the rug. I had outside cameras, but guess what? They burned. So I got, and of course the recorder burned too. They ain't a large fire extinguishers. After the fire, as we were advised by the police and the insurance company, any goods that can be readily taken from the house, such as guns, jewelry, so on, get it out of your house. Just make a record of it. Thank you for listening, and hopefully an event like this doesn't occur again. Thank you.
Any other business?
I have a quick question. Sharon, can I ask you a question?
You can.
When we talked, did you tell me that you were recorded?
I was.
And what happened?
Greg approached the house, and I'm not gonna lie, I called his home phone number, and it's on my computer, the time I called him and everything. And I called him, and I shouldn't have called him at home, and I apologize for that, Greg, but I thought Greg was my friend. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. There was 4 of these boys. I've lived in this neighborhood 15 years. I walk every day. I I've never seen these boys in this community before. I'm just going by what the police told me that night, Bruce Matthews, and he said, just to watch, because they didn't have enough policemen to stay there. We understood that. I have no complaints. The police would patrol my area, just like I told Greg that morning. But he came, and the Mexican policeman that was with him in the parking lot in the ballpark, they came, they talked, and they came up in my drive, in Arnold's drive. And Greg came up and said, what was it you needed? By this time, I had done called my husband, and my husband said, you should have never called him. Because Greg's words to me when I called him was, he said, did they have anything in their hands? And I said, no. He said, then what do you expect me to do? I said, I'm sorry I called, and I hung up. And when he come, he talked to the police officer, and they come up and approached me. I was checking the gas. Now, I'm going to tell you all something. I'm not going to say nothing here that I can't say in a court of law in front of anybody. I can swear to it. So, he came up and he said, what did you want? I said, I've done called my husband. I don't need a thing. I shouldn't have bothered you. And he said, why are you going around town talking about my guys? Well, his guys are not his guys. They're our guys. All the people that pay taxes in this town, that's our protection. Or that's so what I thought. And he said to me, I said, I've never talked about your guys. I went to the 6th Alderman because I was told to do this several years ago with an incident with my mother that had board members at the nursing home. And they told me to go to every board member, John Officer did, and he said, those are the men that are elected to fight for you. Well, these are my aldermen. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is so out of proportion that you all may feel good to think one firefighter that comes is good. It's not good. But anyway, I told Greg, and I said, and I told him several things, but I won't go into that because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I can say it if I need to say it. He left. I said, we're done here. I'll never call you again. They left. I sat down and cried for 10 minutes. And then old Sharon kicked in. And I thought, I'll be dadgum. I've not walked in a week. And I walk 4 times a week. And I got up and I walked. I went down to Jim Deck's. I went across the parkway. And I went down that little hill to the old Board of Education. I'm in a hill and I hear my voice. And I'm thinking, where in the world is this coming from? And I'm walking and I'm looking like this. And then Greg's car is parked at the old police office, the old Board of Education, and the 2 deputy cars is beside, and the 2 deputies are out. And it's going loud. And the 1 deputy walks up, and it goes down. And I get even with him, and I said, it's just me. Go ahead and play it. I know what to say. I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm afraid to walk. I'm afraid to get out of my house. Not because of anybody else, but I'm going to tell you something. When you're afraid of your own police people, and you're afraid something's going to be placed on you, or you're going to be raped, or you're going to be accused of doing something, well, maybe you all want to live in a town like that. I've decided I'm selling. I'm getting out of this town. I've never done nothing to you, Greg. Never, nothing in my life. But I do expect respect. When a 68-year-old woman is afraid to walk in her own neighborhood, and you know what? I'm not. Ask my husband. I walked today when Jess came. This is the first day since July the 3rd that I've been out of my house walking. Now, you all do what you want to with it, but I'm going to tell you something. This is not nothing that you should laugh about and that you should call me a bitch over, because I'm going to tell you, I am a bitch. But when it comes to my kid, I'm going to fight for her, and I'm going to fight for what's right. And I'm like Kelly Coleman. I may lose everything I get, because you can maybe do, but I'm going to tell you something. Everything I've said here tonight, I can say in a court of law. So I'm done. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome, Sharon. Do we record conversations with people like Sharon, Chief?
Actually, sometimes we do, but we did not that morning. I didn't have anything with me because I came from home. The officer's camera was actually in charge. So
I didn't make this up. But if Greg wants to go further, we can go back several years.
I'm just asking if it's a part of our protocol to record conversations, that's all I'm asking.
On calls for service, yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Clearly, there's some differences here, so I'm very comfortable about this.
See the other aldermen have anything to say? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Chris Beggs, there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Glenn Dawson, all in favor, motion, let no sign. Aye. All opposed, right sign.
I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay. I wasn't sure if I was